Everyone, and welcome to our match preview on Football Talk podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for this evening. Firstly, apologies, if I've not been able to present content over the last few days. As promised, unfortunately I've got the flu bug right now, so I wasn't able to do any shows. But like Ibu Kanate, I may not be 100%, but I'm back and I'm ready to go. And there's no better place to begin, or shall I say, an opponent to face after a terrible spell of three back-to-back defeats. And that's, of course, we will be facing Manchester United tomorrow afternoon. Now, I know a lot of our fans are nervous going into this game, and I hear it. You've got a lot of Man United content creators downplaying their chances of winning because let's be frank, they're shit right now, and they're trying to add more pressure on Liverpool to deliver, saying that we must win. Uh, they think people can't read through their motives. They're setting themselves up to go crazy on us, for content purposes, especially if they were to get a result. Now, let's not forget, maybe a couple of years ago, United fans were celebrating a nil-nil draw like it helped them get closer to the title. So we're dealing with a shameless fan base, and that's why Liverpool fans are concerned in terms of the reaction from those sort of other fans. But I'm going to flip the script and use a different type of ammunition. There is no better game to make a statement than demolishing Manchester United. Yes, we're not performing anywhere near uh, to our standards, and of course, in terms of Manchester United, they're nowhere near in terms of what they have achieved over the years. But historically, they are our biggest rival. It doesn't matter if it's under eights or the first team. We always want to get a result over them. And this is the match where I'm hoping all of our big guns are unleashed and can cause absolute mayhem and chaos at Anfield. I don't want to hear a peep coming out of United fans' mouth after this game about Liverpool because, let's keep it 100. They talk about Liverpool a lot more than their own team, quite frankly. So, as you can tell, I'm a little bit, fiery or fired up about this fixture. And I really hope that the players are aligned with the way I'm thinking because things need to change and they need to switch up very, very quickly. We need to turn a page and go crazy in terms of forming consecutive runs and show people that we're still the team to beat, whether they like it or not. So, this under 24 hours away. It's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. And quite frankly, I want all the smoke. So, yeah, it should be an interesting encounter. Just got a couple of comments there before we move on. From Ozan Kabak who says, "Yo, Ozzy, long time no see." Yeah, Ozan Kabak. Yeah, it's been a few days, which doesn't seem like a lot to some, but when you're doing regular content, it does feel like quite a while. So yeah, big up yourself. I hope you're well. And Ozan says, "This is a must win, man. 100%. I couldn't agree more. It is a must win. Even if it's a draw, I don't think that's acceptable for me. That would be a defeat in my eyes. So there's no excuses. We have to get the 3 points at Anfield tomorrow for a number of reasons. It's not just for bragging rights. There's a lot more to it. So yeah, we'll delve into that a lot more in the show. So let's get into our usual formalities of assessing our opponents, and I'll then present the team news, sorry, alongside the predicted lineups for both teams, and I'll also present a score prediction at the end as well. So, in terms of our record against Manchester United at Anfield, it's a decent one to be fair. The last time they beat us at Anfield was in 2016 through a Wayne Rooney finish. So that was 9 years ago. Since then, especially at Anfield, there's been a number of draws as expected, with United parking the bus nowadays. But then there's also been a few games where we've absolutely destroyed them, including the infamous 7-0 victory a couple of years ago. So that should give Liverpool some confidence going into this fixture. But in terms of recent events this season, United have been, in my eyes, terrible for them. It might be otherwise. They're currently 11th in the league, 3 wins, which included a 3-2 victory over Burnley, 2-1 against Chelsea, and a 2-0 win, which was their last fixture against Sunderland. They had one draw against Fulham, which was a 1-1 result, and 3 defeats in the hands of Arsenal, Man City, and Brentford. So just to keep in mind, two of those um, defeats were away from home, so that should help us in terms of having that confidence that we can nick the win at this our home game. But look, to be fair, for United, that might not seem like a bad start for them. They're probably just relieved that they're not sitting beside the likes of West Ham, Wolves, and Nottingham Forest. So they might be relieved that they are making some level of progress. In the real world, they're not, but we'll let them have it for now. But in terms of our opponents, we're still sort of uncertain in terms of which team's going to turn up because they've been quite up and down, and also the manager's future has always been a talking point. I, for one, would love for him to stay for the long foreseeable future, and hopefully that is the case. But rest assured, from their point of view, um, form goes out of the window, and it always is the case when it's Liverpool versus Manchester United. This is their World Cup final, so this means everything for their fans. Even a point will result to documentaries being produced on MUTV. So something for the United fans to look forward to if they get a result tomorrow afternoon. But now in terms of Liverpool, of course, we've had a terrible few weeks with back-to-back defeats against Palace and Chelsea, of course, in the Premier League, and we also lost against Galatasaray in the Champions League. And we got a taste of our own medicine, suffering last-minute winners. So it's not been an easy one to take. But not only that, our level performances have been deteriorating, and that's my biggest concern going into this fixture. Uh, we'll go into it in a bit more detail in terms of our predicted lineups, uh, because I think tactically we need to make a few tweaks, and that needs to be addressed in this fixture. But before that, let's present the team news and see who's available for this fixture after the long 2-week international break. In terms of Liverpool, we've got some good news. Gravenberg and Konate are fit and ready for selection. Alisson, unfortunately, is still on the sidelines with a hamstring injury. Should be expected to return in about 2 to 3 weeks. So hopefully we'll get some good news soon. Um, I think Endo is injured because I remember seeing a picture of him and Alisson at the AXA training center. So there's not been any confirmation in regards to his status, but he could be available from the bench if anything. And unfortunately for Leone, he is our long-term absentee with an ACL injury. From a United point of view, they had to assess a few players, the likes of Casemiro, Diallo, Fernandez, but they are fully fit for this fixture, so no injuries from their side. So quite frankly, I don't want to hear any excuses from a United fan in regards to their team selection because they've got a fit and ready squad ready to go against Liverpool this Sunday. So let's present the team predicted lineups. We'll start with the away team. Get United's team out of the way, and then we'll delve in um, tactics about Liverpool in more detail. So, from United's point of view, of course, no more Onana. He's off, or he's gone to Turkey more or less, and he looks like a different goalkeeper, a different human being altogether, which seems to be a common theme when United players depart from Old Trafford. So in terms of their team selection, I'm going to go for Lemans, their new signing, to start in goal. And the formation that I'm expecting them to play is a 3-4-2-1. It's the formation they've pretty much played most games. It's a static formation from Ruben Amorim's point of view because he doesn't really like to tweak his formation or his style or philosophy. So you know, that is quite stubborn from a coach, but that's a United problem, not a Liverpool problem at all. In terms of the back line, I'm going to go for Euro on the right hand side. That's the position he's predominantly played so far this season. Excuse me. And in the middle, I think he'll be Delit. That starts there. He played in the last game, and it'll be Luke Shaw on that left hand side. Now, the midfield is going to be interesting because I don't think it's going to be the same selection that played against Sunderland. So I'm predicting a few tweaks from Amarim. I think he's going to go with orthodox wing backs in this formation. So I'm expecting it to be Dallo on that right hand side instead of Amad Diallo, which for me, when I see these formations, I feel like they're ruining certain players. Amad Diallo, yes, on paper, is a right midfielder, right? But in this formation, the players that are playing in that midfield four, they're pretty much wing backs. They're not midfielders or they're not wingers. So you're losing that attacking instinct from a player who, has shown a lot of promise over the last year or two, but that's a tweak or that's a tactic from Ruben Amorim. And on the other side, I'm going to go for Dogu, who had a decent spell recently with Denmark. So he'll be playing at left wing back, in my opinion. In the middle of the park, Fernandez is fit, so he should be selected for this game. Now, the interesting part for this one, I don't think they'll go for Casemiro. I know he played in the last fixture. I think I'm expecting a surprise, including Ugarte, who's not had the best sort of time with Amorim. Opportunities have been very, very limited. But I think in this fixture, they need legs. They need someone to show a bit of a bite in that midfield, a bit of tenacious kind of behavior. So I think you'll get that with Ugarte. With Casemiro, if it was Casemiro from 10 years ago, you'd get that same sort of player there. But unfortunately, as the older he gets, the slower and less effective he is on the pitch. So I think they'll go for Ugarte in a midfield duo alongside Fernandez. So that's the pairing I'm going for. What I'm predicting, that we'll be facing tomorrow. And up top, and Buemo, I think will play. I know Mason Mount's been playing there recently, but I expect Cunha to return to the lineup. I think he's the better player, so you go for your strongest 11, and I'm going for Sheshko up top as well. So this is the predicted lineup from United. Drop a comment, let me know what you guys think. In terms of you know danger men or any concerns, I don't mean to, but no, there aren't too many concerns if I'm looking at the squad. I think the fullbacks, we'll have to make sure they don't have any influence in this team because I think they are probably the better players, amongst this sort of crop of players in this team. I think those two will try to provide the creativity from the flanks. So they're the ones I feel like we have to be wary of. And I think in terms of Mbemo, got to be wary in terms of his approach to the game because he loves to play on the counter. So he's someone that will, definitely stretch his legs and try and hit us on the counter and have an impact on the game. And Cunha, very, very clever player, tenacious as well, but maybe, we can rattle him a little bit and try and get him booked or get him sent off even. So, those are the players I feel like, could have an impact on the game. Sesko, I'll be honest with you, I don't really have two concerns. I don't rate him, as you probably know on the channel. Very mediocre striker, in my opinion. So I'm not expecting him to be a real danger to us in this fixture. So that is my predicted lineup for Manchester United. Now let's quickly and swiftly move on and discuss Liverpool. So in terms of our lineup, expecting it to be a 4-2-3-1 formation. Despite a lot of fans asking for a change of shape or change of formation, I don't think this is the time to do that. So in terms of the goalkeeper selection, of course, it has to be Mamadashvili due to Alisson's injury right now. So Mamadashvili will start in goal. Now, the fullback positions. I would go aggressive with this one. So I would go with Frimpong on that side because I feel like his aggressive manner will push them back further. And I feel like they are going to play a low block. So you need to find a different outlet on the flank. And I feel like with Frimpong's raw speed and directness, I feel like that could be the way to unlock either some crosses or unlock, Frimpong on that right side, and hopefully, he can provide some crosses and some creativity inside the box. So I'm going for Frimpong on that right hand side, and I'm going for Kirkers as well. So I'm expecting two of our summer signings to be in full flow, full effect in this fixture and play to their capabilities. So I'm going for those two to start in this game, and I'm going for Van Dijk, of course, in the centre back position, and I'm going for Konate, who should be, available to play. He's not partaked in any fixtures for the French national team, so he should be, fully fit or fit enough to at least start the game. So hopefully, he produces an improvement because he has had a few stinkers so far this season. Now, in terms of the midfield. I know McAllister's had a decent, I think he scored a couple goals for Argentina, correct me if I'm wrong. So he's been in good form in recent days. But I'm going to go for the midfield. I mean, trying to predict or trying to put the energy out there, but it hasn't quite come to fruition. So I'm expecting it to be Szoboszlai and Gravenberch uh, in the double pivot. And I also feel like, from a tactical point of view, it's a good pairing because they'll be going up against Fernandez and Ugarte if my prediction is correct. And I feel like, due to Szoboszlai and Gravenberch's energy and athleticism, I feel like that should play a role for us to dominate both of those players in the middle of the park. So I feel like we've got the upper hand, we've got the stronger players in that midfield battle, so we should be, on top in regards to winning those duels there. So for me, that would be the pairing that I would go for. And on the right hand side, no debates for me, for obvious reasons. But there are fans that are asking for Mohamed Salah, the Egyptian king, to be dropped. For me, I'm not on that boat. I, I, I think he's got too much credit in the bank for him to be dropped. Just because he hasn't performed to his level, it doesn't mean he wouldn't be effective in this game. And let's not forget his record against United. He is someone that always steps up and scores the goals against Manchester United. So for me, this is the perfect game for him to get back to his scoring ways and hopefully get back into form as well. And in that number 10 role, I'm expecting it to be Florian Wirtz. So I'm expecting a huge game from him in this fixture. And on the left, it's an interesting one because I know a lot of fans would like to see Ekatike and Isak in the same team. I wouldn't go for both of them starting together in this fixture. Um, so I'm going to go with Gakpo in this one to start on that left hand side. Even though personally I've not been overly impressed with his performances so far this season, I think he's been quite average. He's not been as impactful as he has been in previous seasons. So I expect a lot more from him in terms of his output and his involvement in games. In terms of the striker, big talking point. Who starts in this one? Do you go for Ekitike or do you go for Isak? Ekitike is probably the more informed striker out of the two, having had a proper preseason and playing more consecutive games so far this season. But, with reports suggesting that Isak is close to being 100%, I would start with Isak in this one. And the reason I'll start with Isak is because of his experience in the league. And I feel like in this game, I feel like I need my striker to have a bit of a attitude, a bit of an arrogance about him going into this game. I don't say that in a rude or abrupt way. Against one of our rivals, you need to try and give them a bit of a spanking, give them, something to regret. There's been a lot of talk amongst United fans and Liverpool fans of the last few weeks. And I'm probably just going off that energy in terms of, content creators and social media fans. But I feel like if you start Isak in this one, it could be a game that really spearheads his sort of position in the team. And I feel like he'll be up for it even more so because he knows what this fixture, entails. Of course, it's his first time being a Liverpool player against Manchester United, but he will be fully aware of the rivalry, and I think he'll want to make his presence known and felt in this game. So I would go for Isak, just due to his sort of aggression and his experience, and I feel like it will play a part. And then, of course, we can bring on the likes of Ekitike later in the game. So this is my formation. Of course, this is a static setup, but in recent weeks, we've had the likes of Gravenberch, play a bit more box to box, right? And generally it's McAllister, but in this game, one would drop deep, and then Gravenberch ends up having more bit of a free roll. I don't really want to see that in this game. I want it to be where Szoboszlai is occupying this area more or less. Gravenberch is the number 6, has the defensive duties to stay and protect the two centre backs there, and you've got Florian Wirtz playing in this pocket. That's the kind of role that's the kind of shape I want to see our midfield three playing, where Szoboszlai occupying that right hand side, but making diagonal runs there as well. Mm. Excuse me, and Florian Wirtz, playing on the left a little bit, but also coming inside but around the edge of the box. That's the kind of role that I wanted to see. So that's the way I want it to go. Now, in terms of Gakpo, I'm expecting him to, do his traditional on the byline, cutting, be in that kind of position. I'm expecting Kirkis to make some overlapping runs, and vice versa on the other side. Salah to be more infield and throwing backs, providing the pace and width on that right hand side as well. So that's the way I want the game to start from a Liverpool point of view. Now, let's address other things as well. If this doesn't seem to be working for whatever reason, or let's say Liverpool don't play the way I've just presented, and it's not working, and we need a plan B or we need a plan C. What would that look like? So for me, the orthodox way would be, maybe play this kind of formation, a 4-3-3 with Groundberg being the sort of the static number six there, and then you've got Szoboszlai as a number eight. Verts as well, but if Slot wanted to go with a different option, of course he would drop Verts, or in this case, maybe bring on McAllister later in the game, and then play in this kind of manner. But for me, I have to see Verts in the team, not because, as some viewers will say, I'm not the president of his defense league or anything to that nature, but this is the game where he can make a statement, and I just have a gut feeling that he's really going to perform in this game, that he's going to make a statement in this fixture. So, let's see if I have to eat humble pie afterwards, or if I have to bite my own words in regards to my prediction here. But this could be a shape that we could play, or if we need to go, slightly conventional, we could just play a 4-4-2 as well, and then you have these four players in this kind of manner. Of course, I don't really like this kind of formation because what ends up happening, Salah and Verts ends up dropping a bit more deeper. And then, the fullbacks aren't as effective. They're not playing to their natural skill set. In these kind of formations, traditionally you're supposed to have defensive minded fullbacks that play in those roles. With our two fullbacks being very attack minded, it wouldn't quite work. So, let's say it's 80th minute and it's 0-0, and we need to try and get that winner. There's only one route to go. We go for a 4-2-4. With details a bit more advanced, and then take off Gakpo and bring on Ekitike. That would be the route to go, and hopefully that will help us get that winner, or get the winning goal in the end. So that's what I'm envisioning. But there's a few ways, how Slot can implement different tactics and different formations during the game, but nothing too crazy where changing the defensive shape. Because for me, reverting from a back four to a back three during the game is not going to work. If that is the long term viewpoint to have a back three, that's something that probably needs to be implemented next season in terms of pre-season rather than during the season. Because I don't feel like it's going to work. And quite frankly, we don't have the options to play a back three. We don't have a lot of defensive options in our squads right now. So for me, that's not the route to go. So for me, this would be our throw the kitchen sink. Try and put as many attacking players uh, in the lineup, but in terms of the traditional formation, I'm expecting it to be Frimpong, Kirkes, Virgil Konate, and Mamadashvili to complete the defensive line. And then you've got um, Salah, Verts, and let me bring them back. I think Gakpo will start in this one, and then you've got um, Isak leading, and of course, Rio and Gomal could be an option off the bench as well, providing width and pace on that on that left hand side. Sorry, so that could be an option for us. But this is the predicted lineup that I'm going for. So please drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. Just gonna go through some of the comments before we close the show, and I'll also provide you with my score prediction as well. Uh, Burton Jav, big on yourself, Burton Jav. He says, "Come on, Liverpool, 3-1 Isak to score." I love that prediction. Um, JK says, "Bless bro, you never walk on." Big up, JK. Hope you're doing well. Double D, big up Double D. He says, "I start Isak too." Yeah, I totally agree. And Double D says, "And Cody, if they don't perform, then no way they should start at Frankfurt." Yeah, people have to step it up now. I I don't mean to be harsh when I say there might be a few players in the squad that may be a bit complacent because they don't have direct competition for a starting place in the team. So if I'm looking at the squad, the likes of Konate, he doesn't like, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to the players that we have in the squad. Like Joe Gomez, of course, he's a very talented centre back, but he's a fragile option for us because if we play him and he was to pick up an injury, we've got no centre back option. So we're very selective, or we're a bit cautious to play him in certain games unless we really, really need him as an option. So Konate doesn't really have competition for a starting place. And then you've got the likes of Gakpo, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to Rio and Gamoa. Of course, a young up and coming player, but he's not experienced enough. He's not an out and out first team player right now. So Gakpo might just be thinking, we've got a young prodigy in the ranks, but this left wing's my position, and maybe there's a touch of complacency in his form because he's not been productive for me in these games, and the relationship between himself and Kirkers hasn't worked. It hasn't clicked. Kirkers has made a lot of overlapping runs in recent games, and he's just completely ignored. He's playing like he's not even existed in the team. So that's my concern. He's not forming relations, and he's doing his one trick, which is, he cuts in and shoots from the edge of the box when it really isn't a goal scoring opportunity. So that's my concern. So something needs to change. Burton Jav said 4-3-3. That would not even be a bad route to go. What I want to see more so than not, I want to see Gravenberch being the most defensive minded midfielder in our team. That's the formula that we presented last year, and it worked. So why change it? Why are we messing around with winning formula? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's the saying. So um, go back to our, normal tactics. Let him be the number six. Let the player alongside him, whether it's Szoboszlai or McAllister, let them play as the number eight. And then Verts can have that sort of free attacking role. But, this is from an attacking, position. But of course, I'm expecting Verts to be more energetic in this game where he's pressing from the front, but also helping out from a defensive point of view by tracking back and being the extra man in that midfield as well. So I'm expecting him to be, playing at a different level in the coming weeks, and I really hope that is the case with Florian Wirtz. Delulu Steve, big up Delulu Steve as always. He said Wirtz needs to contribute either a goal or assist tomorrow, or Ozzie will be cooked. I'm here. I'm all here for it. So yeah, let's see what happens. Amrish, big up Amrish. He says, big up the community. Slot has to let Grav be the number six. No more attacking than losing the ball. No maker. I would prefer to play Jones. Verts and Isak have to step up now and show their worth. Great comment there. Now, in terms of Slot um, letting Grav be the number six, that is what I want to see. I think that's what a lot of Liverpool fans want to see as well. And look, he may counter that argument and say, well, I've scored a goal, I've provided a few assists, why should I play to that kind of form of playing? Why should I revert to number six? Whereas I'm a traditional number eight, I can play that role. The thing is, in that number six role, he's a class above a lot of people, in my opinion. In our team, he's the undisputed player in that position. So he has to play that role. He needs to revert to that defensive player. And hopefully, Arne Slot can deploy that tactic again because I think Slot tried to go with a formula or formation where the double pivot isn't as static. They're a bit more free flowing. So one will go forward, the other will drop deep, vice versa. So we're not, you know, man marked during games by the opponents. But the thing is, you've got to let the players play to their ability because McAllister, for me, number one, he doesn't look fully fit or hasn't looked fully fit so far this season. He's looked out of balance. He's looked a bit jaded and he's out of form. So because of all of those combinations there, what happens is Gravenberch goes in a more of a forward run, and then he ends up being the number six, or he ends up being the more defensive-minded midfielder, and he's left exposed because he's not playing to his capability. He's not playing with that real energy or tenacity, and people are walking past him like he's not there. So that's my concern. So Arne Slot really needs to switch up. He needs to revert back to playing Gravenberg in that number 6 role. So I totally agree with you in regards to the Amrish. No Maka, is he not available? I thought he would have been available for his fixture. You said you prefer Jones. Jones is a good shot. I probably prefer to see Jones come in later in the game. I would start with Szoboszlai because, quite frankly, I don't think he's droppable. So I would have Szoboszlai in the team and let him play in one position, please. Because there's been a lot of games where he's played as the number 6, as the number 8, as a right back, and it's just a bit too much for him. So let him get a bit of stability, let him play in one position, and then we can kind of like let him do his work on the pitch. Because right now he's been a makeshift player for a lot of positions, and don't get me wrong, he's performed at a very good level, but because of that, it's been a bit of a bad trait for him in that regards because he's so capable playing different roles that now we're having to use him as a problem solver, which shouldn't be the case. We should play him to his strengths. So hopefully he gets to play in a static position, whereas in previous games he played about 2, 3 different roles. So let's see how it goes. But I do feel like the likes of Verts, Isak, Salah I have to add that into the mix. They have to, and Gakpo as well. They have to step up. They really, really do because they've been a shadow of themselves, especially the two wide players. Been very disappointed with their contribution so far this season. Uh, Amish says United will play counter attack and will defend deep. We have to defend and peg them first minute 100%. We have to be aggressive. We have to be aggressive in this game. We have to use the likes of Frimpong and Kirk. We have got to their advantage, i.e., we have to make sure they are bombing down those flanks. So we're pushing them even further. But then we've got the likes of Verts, Gakpo, Salah, getting that creativity and providing service for Isak. Because for me, Isak really hasn't got the service that he deserves in the last couple of games. So that's something, we have to really improve on. So hopefully Verts can unlock that stubborn defense in Manchester United and try and get Isak through on goal, and hopefully he can do the business by scoring a few goals tomorrow. So yeah, let's see if that is going to happen. JK says good team, be yourself, JK. Amrish says Mboma and Cunha will be very dangerous. Our fullback have to perform. Yeah, they will be dangerous. I think with both of those players, I'm not expecting them to play out wide as much. I think they'll be on the flanks in a counter attack sort of transition. But in general play, I expect them to be more inside where the likes, if my prediction is correct, Dogu and Dalot being the players that provide the width in this team. Um, but those two players, Mbeumo, absolutely quick on the counter, so he's someone we have to really look out for. And Cunha might not be as fast as Mbeumo, but very good dribbler, very tricky customer. And for me, he's very, very lethal in front of goal, a very clinical finisher. So, those players, they might not perform to the standards that we saw last season, but they are still danger men for United. So we definitely have to watch out for them. Um, that says, big up Ozzy. Here's a stat. Last 3 games have been ref by tomorrow's ref, Michael Oliver. Is that correct? Live, he really is a bad luck charm. Hopefully, we can get one over there. Does ask, do you think we will see a red card tomorrow for United? Yeah. Possibly. It's not something I would want to predict because you just don't know how these encounters take place. But you've got the likes of Ugarte who can be a bit of a hothead. Fernandez as well, emotions run high. So, if Liverpool are, bossing the midfield, he can get quite agitated as well. So it could be a possibility, but I think from a Liverpool point of view, we just have to make sure we do our job and get that 3 points. If they can't control their emotions, that's on them. For me, we have to try and capitalize on any given opportunity and try and get the win tomorrow. So that's the biggest concern for me going to this game. But to Jeff says only danger is in Burma, but Isak is a man. Yes, Isak is the guy for us, most definitely. And then Burma is a danger man for sure. Delusive says, I just get so frustrated when Slot keeps moving. Suppose that in various positions within the same game, man can't get no remorse. Completely agree, Delusive. I literally just said that a few minutes ago, so you've literally voiced out my concerns there. And that's his downfall, actually, because he's so versatile that he can play different roles. It's also unfortunately, slight hindrance on him because he's so good at playing in different roles. So I agree. I really hope that I don't want to see him at right back. Personally, I know we're trying to fit people in, but I want people to play it, to their strengths, to their natural positions, and play to their capabilities. And I want to see him in midfield. I know that number six role isn't really his role either, but I'd rather see him in a midfield capacity and play there for the full 9 minutes rather than be a makeshift left back or well, he hasn't played left back, but makeshift right back or on the wing at some point. I don't really want to see that in this game because we can't just over override his luck right now because of his capabilities. If you keep playing this play in a different position, he's gonna burn out as well. So it doesn't help us in the long run. So for me, gotta be a bit more sensible. I know certain players aren't playing to their capability, but you know, you have to give them a bit of a chance. So, let's see. Look, for example, if for some reason that Slot didn't want to play Szoboszlai in this number six role, the way I will switch it up in that regards, I will put Szoboszlai in that number 10 role, put Verts on the left instead of Gakpo, and then have McAllister alongside Groundback. That would be my plan B if you know Slot doesn't favour Szoboszlai in that role. But I've seen it in preseason. I know preseason is not a great example, but it's a role that can, help. It can be played to our advantage in this game because I think as a duo, Groundberg and Szoboszlai will have too much for an Ugarte or Fernandez. Or if it's not Ugarte, it'll be Casemiro. I think they'll have too much for him. So hopefully, that is the case. And let's see, how it is going forward. Uh, that's out Ozzie when is Addison back. So there's no sort of fixed date because it's a hamstring injury, so you have to be very careful with those ones. But the estimation was end of November. So, oh, sorry, early November. So about 2-3 weeks. So that would be the time. But you still got to be careful and not rush players into the lineup so soon. So you got to just manage it carefully. So I expect him to be back mid-November, if I'm being honest. But let's see, how he does in his rehabilitation. Um, JK says we need to show the initiative like Caicedo did against Chelsea, against us versus Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea game was a bit of an eye opener. I'm not gonna lie. There was a lot of poor performance on Arsenal, but then we looked at our opponents and seeing a player like Caicedo run that midfield, uses energy like like he was on Duracell batteries. Like he was just everywhere. So that's something we've got to take. Where I don't feel like the players have applied themselves this season. I don't feel like they've played to their levels. They're not played with real intensity or aggression. Quite frankly, they've been a bit complacent, and I don't really like that attitude. So they've got to play like they're underdogs. And this might sound very silly saying out loud, but because we're champions, we might have that tiny bit of arrogance about us where we feel like, oh, we're champions, we're just going to coast through, especially with the opening games where we've won, in the last minute and so on. That shouldn't be the attitude. That shouldn't be the mentality. If we have to revert back to being underdogs, so be it. Because people are doubting us right now. Let's be honest. So some of our fans are doubting us. Rival fans think we're a bit of a joke. So use that as ammunition going into this game and use it for the rest of the season. So, we really have to switch it up going forward. JK said, I reckon Asset needs another month. You might be right, JK, because these injuries have been quite recurring for Allison, and he may be fit enough to train in the next 2-3 weeks, but I agree. I think mid-November slash late November would be the right time to ease him into the team. Of course, if Mamardashvili is having a few stinkers, then we're gonna have to rush him back. But I do have confidence that Mamardashvili can, you know, keep the ship steady until Allison returns. So hopefully, Allison comes back fit and ready and raring to go whenever that time comes. Um, JK says, Frimpong needs to start his career with us now. I'm starting him against United. I think so. I wouldn't say he had a great start. He had a decent start to the season, picked up an injury, so that never helped. So he just hasn't quite found his rhythm, unfortunately. I know a lot of fans have kind of given up hope on him altogether. Uh, but I wouldn't quite. goal to that extent. I don't think he's been given a fair crack of the whip, so far this season. And look, when Conor Bradley's played, unfortunately, I don't think he's been very impressive either. So there's a fight, for that right back position. They both have to step up. Let's be honest. So you know, whoever starts in this game, they really, really have to perform uh, going forward. Uh, Lee Wiz Kid says, big up Rez, big up yourself, Lee. I hope you're doing well. Um, let's see. Daz asked for Lee's 11. So if Lee's in the chat, feel free to let us know. But yeah, that's all the comments there. Now, in terms of or should I say, my score prediction, look, let's not be around the bush. This is a huge game for Liverpool, as we've been talking about amongst us in the chat. Um, for a number of reasons. In terms of going back to back to winning ways, and also having some bragging rights against one of our biggest opponents or biggest rivals. There's a lot at stake here. Plus, with Arsenal, City, and Chelsea winning today, it adds more pressure going into this fixture as we climb up the table. And also, might be a slight advantage, but I also think playing on a Sunday after an international break could give us that edge going into this game. In previous times, especially under your clock, we would always end up having the Saturday 12:30 kickoff after the international break, which was never ideal. So we've probably given a bit of an advantage in this situation here. But with that said, um, I'm going to show a bit more confidence, and I'm going to go for a Liverpool victory, which is no surprise, I'm sure, to any of you. And I'm going for a 3-0 win. Call me optimistic, but hey, that's the prediction I'm going for. Now, I don't know if this is me being more hopeful or me envisioning this, but I'm hoping to see Verts, Salah, and Isak on the scoreline. That would be the dream scenario for me. So hopefully, it can be a reality for us going forward. Just got a comment here from JK says, can't wait for the game. Come on, you Res, welcome. Big up, JK. Uh, Lee, oh, sorry. So Lee says, undecided. If you're playing Frimpong at right back, then I want Rob at left back. If Kirk is okay, fine. So you're trying to balance out the fullbacks. I do get that. Um, maybe I'm just thinking we got to go aggressive in that first half because we need to try and get that early goal, try and put our stamp in the game, and that's why I'm going for Kirkers and Frimpong. But I do understand your thinking there in terms of having one slightly defensive minded fullback. But then again, Bradley, I wouldn't regard him as defensive minded. He might be slightly more defensive minded than Frimpong, but stylistically, he's still an attacking fullback. So, you know, it's vice versa. Whoever you go for, I think the both players have similar skill set. It's just that I think Frimpong will excel in terms of raw speed and directness, whereas Bradley has the capability of making runs inside the box and finding himself in good goal scoring positions. So it's going to be interesting. I think both players will be involved in this game. So whether one starts, the other will be involved, in my opinion. Jacob says 2-0 for me. Got to have a clean sheet, 100%. A clean sheet and an emphatic win like that would be the best way to end the weekend. So yeah, I totally agree with that one. JK says, I want Robbo left back with Frimpong right back. Fair enough. That is fair. Dad has gone for a 4-1 victory, and he's gone for Verts, an Isak double, and a Mohamed Salah goal. So, yeah, the goal scores are the same as mine, but you've gone for additional Isak goal, which will be a very sweet moment if that was to occur. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Oz and Kabak. Thank you to Burton Jab, JK, Double D, Deluded Steve, Amrish. Who else do we have? Uh, JK, Lee, WizKid, big up Lee, and I believe that is it. If I miss you, apologies. But yeah, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now, in terms of upcoming shows, of course, I'm going to be doing a watch along for this game tomorrow. It's a 4:30 kickoff time in the UK, so I'll be live from 4:25. We'll review the lineups together, watch the game, and feel free to get involved in the chat. I think the emotions will be high in this one. I told you earlier in the show, I'm a bit under the weather, but hey, that might not stop me in terms of how I react to certain moments in the game. So yeah, it should be an exciting game. I think it's going to be full of emotions, and yeah, if we get the upper hand, I think a lot of voices will be will be heard tomorrow. But at the same time, if we don't get a result, because I'm classifying a draw as a loss, then we'll have to have those difficult conversations. But we'll see what the outcome is tomorrow, and then we'll take it from there. And as always, we'll have a match reaction show as well. So that will take place in the evening at 11 p.m. UK time. So feel free to get involved if you'd like to call in. All my match reaction shows are calling shows for the viewers. So feel free to hit that link, come on the show, have your say, and yeah, we'll hopefully we'll be in celebrational sort of mood rather than us being in the dumps, because we've had some poor results in recent weeks. So hopefully our fortunes can change going forward. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe. I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.